Hey, what's up, Logos American History students? It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. It is day 70 overall of our e-learning experience. Can you believe that's a pretty big milestone? 70 school days we have done via e-learning, going all the way back to right after spring break. That was back in March. Here we are, July 8th, and we are at day 70. That's pretty impressive. I didn't think we would make it this far, I'm going to be honest with you. But good for you guys for making it this far. I feel good about myself for making it this far. We did it together, guys. And we still got a little bit longer to go before we can close out this 2019-2020 school year. But day 70, that's a milestone that we all should be proud of. And what do we got? Like 2 more school days this week and then 4 more next week. So we'll get to like, 76 days before this is all said and done. That's pretty impressive. But we still got a little bit of work to do between now and then, so let's go ahead and get on to our blackboard. Take a look at this. Let's see, blackboard, where you at? There it is. There's our class blackboard page. As always, we have the note about tomorrow, Thursday, we have our class Zoom meeting, right? It's at 11 to 11:30, as always. Be looking for the invite coming out later today. And yeah, I'd love to see everybody in on that Zoom meeting tomorrow. Don't have any specific agenda, but I do want to talk about the war on terror, right? The Iraq War, the Afghanistan War. These are things that are still going on today, but they really started in the early 2000s. They started, I want to talk about it because unfortunately the book doesn't, right? They started after the textbook was published. Today, we're actually going to be reading the last section of the last chapter of the textbook. And so it gets into things that were happening in 2001, 2002, 2003 in this country. And that's it. And there's nothing past 2003 in the textbook. That doesn't mean we can't still discuss these things, and we won't, because we will. We got a whole week next week to discuss these things. But a lot has happened, obviously, since 2003. The entire Barack Obama presidency, and first term of the Donald Trump presidency, but then the George W. Bush presidency. It's really defined by the Iraq War, and so we can't cover American history without talking about the Iraq War. But today we're going to be talking about, well, let's see. Let's take a look at our topics. We scroll up to our topics tab right there. There it is. Still in the topic of the 90s, even though technically we've moved into 2000, 2001. And there it is, Chapter 27, Section 3, last chapter of the textbook, pages 911 to 917. Let's go ahead and click on that and take a look at this. And what does it say? Americans in the new millennium. So when we switched from the 90s to the year 2000, there was this whole thing called Y2K. Well, Y2K, the year 2000. But Y2K was this concern that all of our computers were going to break down and stop working when the clock struck midnight on December 31st, 1999, switched over to January 1st, 2000. Why were we concerned that all the computers were going to stop working? Because when they programmed the dates in computers, they programmed them with a 2-digit code, right? Because they weren't thinking ahead, and so they said, okay, so the year 80 is 1980, the year 90 is 1990, the year 99 is 1999, the year 00 1900. That was the concern, that all the computers would all of a sudden think it's 1900 and everything would stop working. Turned out we were okay. The Y2K panic subsided. But the other thing was people were really excited talking about the new millennium. Now, the new millennium technically didn't start until 2001. But the new millennium was a big deal. I mean, a millennium only happens every 1,000 years. So switching to the new millennium, it was a big deal. And Americans and American history in the new millennium, there really is a transition from the 20th century to the 21st century, from the last millennium to the new millennium. And so that's what this is about. I like this section. It's interesting to read this section because remember, this section was printed, as I said, over 15 years ago. And so because it's the last section of the book, it kind of is predicting, what's going to be coming ahead. And they're pretty right on. I mean, this talks about the changes in the demographics in our country, the diversity, right? The diversifying. Our country has always been a diverse country, but it's become more diverse in the past, 20, 30 years because of immigration, right? Mostly from Latin America. We've talked about this before, and it's still an issue going on today. But then also the aging of America, right? More and more older Americans make up a larger percentage of the population. And so they talk about multiculturalism. They talk about this idea that we have a lot of different people of different ages, different races, different ethnicities, different genders, all trying to make it in one country. And that's really been, the story of the past 20, 30 years in America. That and the internet. And that's the other prediction they make, right? So the internet, remember, when this was being published, the internet was still a pretty brand new thing. And it's still, to this day, a relatively new thing. But I like this. Fast forward to tomorrow. What comes next? And I'm reading what they say, and they say, let's see, think about the speed of change. The internet is already evolving as people begin to access it from wireless devices. Begin. Experts see a future in which our lives are filled with internet-enabled appliances, cars, airplanes, and houses. And there we are, right? So they were predicting this 15 years ago, over 15 years ago. They talk about, again, there's a lot of predictions that have come true, and a lot that we're still working on, right? But that's, the two big things, right? The technologies of the late 20th century and the diversification of America's population in the late 20th century has really been what has impacted the first 20 years of the new millennium. So, yeah, this is an interesting section. Like I said, it's kind of looking forward. It's kind of trying to predict what's going to happen. And we can kind of look at it today and say, oh, well, some of these things they were right on, some of these things they were wrong on. But you do have the reading comprehension questions there. Just going to do 4 of them today. And as always, you can find those under topics right here. They're embedded as a Google form. You also find that Google form submission if we go back to the assignments tab, where you can either submit through Google Forms or the online submission, as always, under the assignments tab. Also under the assignments tab, as always, is our question of the day. And the question of the day gets to one of the reading comprehension questions and one of the points. We got a lot of different issues that we're dealing with simultaneously in our modern world and modern America. Right now, the pandemic trumps all other crises, but we still have global terrorism. We still have immigration and how we deal with that. These issues aren't going to go away. We still have racial issues, racial injustice issues. But then we also have this issue of what do we do with all these. Every day we have more and more people reaching what's known as retirement age, right? More and more people moving into that age range of senior citizens, right? And people are just living longer. So we have, every day we get new senior citizens and, they're added to this group of people who just keep getting older and older and older. And so we have this aging population. And that presents, problems of its own. One of the problems it presents is with this system called Social Security. Social Security was set up 100 years ago, almost. And it was set up like 90 years ago. But it was set up with the idea that, when people reach a certain age, they shouldn't have to work anymore. And you work and you pay into this system while you're working. And then when you reach retirement age, you get to take out of the system. And you receive benefits, you receive money to live off of, and you're retired. You don't have to work anymore. And they set the retirement age, 90 years ago when they created this, they set the retirement age at 65. And the idea was, the life expectancy back then was 68. And so, as new people reach retirement age, people would be dying off, and the new people reaching retirement age would replace them. Well, life expectancy has gone up. And so retirement age is still 65, but we have millions and millions and millions of people receiving Social Security benefits, and every day new people are turning 65 and being added to that. And you receive these benefits for the rest of your life. So if you live to be 105, that's 40 years of Social Security benefits. And in order for the Social Security system to work, we need enough people who are working age paying into it to pay for all the people who are retired taking out of it. And what we have, the situation right now is we have more money being taken out than is going in. And when people talk about the national debt, a big driver of the deficits in the debt is this, Social Security. So the question is, do you think taxpayers should continue to support people who are unable to work to support themselves due to disability or old age? I hope you say yes, right? But if you say yes, how does that work? Do you think Social Security benefits will be available by the time you reach retirement age? When you're 65, will the system still exist as it does? I don't think it could. So, at what age do you think people should be able to stop working and begin receiving Social Security benefits? Should we raise the retirement age? There's lots of different options on the table, but this is an issue that, it's for the future, right? But it's not an issue that's going to go away, right? Eventually, we're going to have to deal with this issue. So I want to know what you guys think. How should we deal with it? Should we just get rid of it? You're on your own. Should we raise the retirement age? What do you think? Let me know. Answer the question of the day. And do the reading, answer the reading comprehension questions, and don't forget about the Zoom meeting tomorrow. And if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Peace.